The four special grades, the peaks of Jujutsu. But the question is, which of these peaks is the strongest? What's up, guys? I'm here. Here we are to rank the special grade sorcerers as overall combatants from weakest to strongest. It's a simple exercise where we do our best to try and not make too many people mad. Hopefully. Please? I don't know. I've seen the comments on other videos of this ilk, and some of y'all get rabid. But regardless, we're going to do our best to rank them. What do I mean by overall combatants, though? It is literally who would beat who in a fight. And, like, kind of who's stronger? Kind of. It is sort of that. But, like, some of this stuff is really matchup based when it comes to the special grades in particular. And the variation and unknowns behind some of these special grades make them extra difficult to talk about because Gege is not very good at completing characters before literally executing them. So some characters, dare I say all four of the characters on this list, most likely, and I mean most likely, have special little things that they probably should have via their title, but we just don't get to see because Gege's mean. And thusly, I'm going to do my best. So hear me when I say we're using stuff that is confirmed to exist in the manga. I'm going to mention speculation and how that could hypothetically change up certain matchups and stuff like that, and how the ranking could shift due to speculation, but that's the best I got. I'm sorry. I'm not going to go too deep into Theory Craftlandia. That's for its own videos on where we could put certain characters with their hypothetical peaks and stuff like that, and hypothetical abilities. But enough chatting. Let's not waste any more time, and let's hop right into number 4. Yeah, so here's the thing. Geto, he suffers from a very particular affliction. And it happens to a lot of characters that happen to exist within sequel series. Because fun fact, JJK is sort of a sequel series. It's called Perishing in the Previous Series. And that sucks. Here's the thing. There are a bunch of characters who sort of get abandoned, like lost in the sauce of the previous series, no matter how good it is. JJK0, fantastic. I love the art of JJK0. I love the story of JJK0. I love the MC of JJK0. I love the sidecast of JJK0. JJK0 is wonderful. But unfortunately, you can tell that I feel like Gege didn't really... I don't think he thought of all the concepts by that point, because JJK0 is missing a bunch of stuff, like literal gargantuan amounts of things that are pretty commonplace by the time of the main series, which a lot of the special grades benefit from. And one of those things is main series scaling or sequel series scaling. And that's why I'm going to have to leave Suguru Geto at the bottom of this list. Notably, I was doing my best. To try and gas him up just a little bit more. But unfortunately, his competition is just a bit too stiff and also happens to be his worst counter. Fun fact, I actually listed Curse Spirit Manipulation as the second best technique of the special grade sorcerers. So you may be wondering, why is he at the bottom when his technique is the second strongest in my honest opinion? He don't got a domain. like that's the simplest thing, right? I don't think he has a domain because it's never been established that he does, for one. And for two, he doesn't have any domain counters. Because once again, I mentioned he suffers from JJK0 syndrome because literally go back to JJK0, there's not even a mention of domains. Like the concept, I'm confident, did not exist yet. Remember, I don't think we see the first actual domain in the series until like 10, 16 chapters in. I know it's a weird rate. I feel like it's chapter 16, but that may just be the first. I forget. I think it's Sukuna. Sukuna uses his domain first, and then I think it's... Yeah, Sukuna uses his domain first against the Finger Bearer. And I think that's chapter around the early 10s. That's the first domain we see in the entire series. And ironically enough, we don't even really get to see it. We don't get an explanation for it. So, unfortunately, Geto just doesn't have one. And while you could extrapolate that maybe, the words I'm not going to say because I'm scared, the domain that Kenjaku uses, you may be able to argue that Geto has that, but you can't, because that's a gravity-based domain. It's not a domain based on Curse Spirit Manipulation. You can see by how it affects Yuki. It doesn't like spam her with 1,000 Curse Spirit. No, it just drops her. like gravity. And it's likely an RCT domain too, so we don't even know what a hypothetical normal variation of that domain would look like. And that leaves Geto in just like the worst spot ever, because he auto loses if any of the special grades above him open domain. Because he doesn't have a domain counter, and he doesn't have a domain itself to counter. So, what is he supposed to do against any of their domains? Like, that's it. He kind of just stuck on that alone. Here's the thing. It gets worse. Every single person above him has direct counters to Curse Spirit Manipulation. Even techniques that I think are overall weaker, as they are known to be right now, like Bombaye and like Copy, absolutely smack up Curse Spirit Manipulation. Why? The easier one, Bombaye, let me take a sip real quick and let you think about why Bombaye absolutely slams Curse Spirit Manipulation. Did you realize it yet? If you didn't, I'll tell you. Kenjaku has Curse Spirit Manipulation. And don't get me wrong, Geto definitely had the technique for longer, but I'd say Kenjaku, the smartest character in the verse, and likely the most experienced character in the verse when it comes to combat, by his own admission, straight up says, oh, yeah, she's different. I'm not going to be able to use high-grade Curse Spirits like I used in Shibuya. So, yeah, Yuki's just like the worst counter to Geto, because all he has is Curse Spirit Manipulation. Luckily enough for Kenjaku, he had plot on his side, for one, and two, he had a second technique that he could use. The gravity technique was something he could use to somewhat mitigate the effects of Bombaye. And on top of that, he had RCT. But Geto, once again, due to being super early on in the narrative and perishing to a character who's powerful, don't get me wrong, JJK0 Yuta is powerful, but losing to that character is just unfortunate for his scaling. He has no domain counters, he has no RCT, and his technique gets hard countered by Bombaye. And let's talk about Copy. Yuta, specifically the Yuta we're talking about, which would be modern series Yuta, sees that Geto is about to spam him with a bajillion Cursed Spirits. I wonder if this scenario has ever happened before. Perish. Boom, all the Cursed Spirits are done. Like, legitimately, every last one of them is annihilated before Geto could even do anything. Because I don't think, once again, if he could have done it in the Yuta fight, I think he would have. I don't think he can tell the Cursed Spirits to reinforce their ears with Cursed Energy, because, like, the Cursed Spirits are made of Cursed Energy. I'm not sure they can even reinforce their ears, being completely honest with you. So they would all automatically perish the moment Yuta opens his mouth. Do I think you can make a solid argument that Geto could beat JJK0 Yuta if he had all his resources? Yeah, definitely. Because even Kenjaku straight admits that. Oh, BT dubs, Gojo. Like, if Geto... Well, does he say it to... I forget who he says it to. But Kenjaku, once again, smartest character in the verse, super duper knowledgeable, verbatim says if Geto had his entire kit with him and wasn't spread out between 3 separate areas, he would have beat that Yuta. But that Yuta's not the same as current Yuta. Current Yuta doesn't even have to worry about the markings or the megaphone shattering anymore if he uses blah, 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 and whispers to all the Cursed Spirits, how you doing, little mama? Let me whisper in your grave. And then he just drops all of them. Like, that's it. They all perish immediately. And that's fine. The big thing, here's the thing. Being generous to Geto. He beats base Yuta, because he doesn't have access to Cursed Spirit Manipulation. And if fully manifested Rika can get stalled out by some enhanced cockroaches, I'm pretty sure she can be stalled out by a bajillion Cursed Spirits. So there you go. Base Yuta loses. Okay. I don't think anyone's running around saying that base Yuta's a top 10 character in the series. I don't think you're going to hear that from anybody. So yeah, he beats base Yuta. Congratulations, Yuta. Boom, boom. Hey, baby girl, slime me my curse technique real quick. Opens up with mimicry, starts talking that mad talk. And here's the thing, once again, we don't know. Maybe he does have RCT. I highly doubt it because he didn't show it. But what happens when Geto gets hit by a thin icebreaker and his guts are everywhere? Or heaven forbid he gets hit in the head, or he loses an arm, or anything like that. He's done. He's done. He's not healing from that. What if Yuta just decides randomly, like, hey, you know what? Forget this. I low-key beat you with this before. Tells Rika, launch it off. And they just launch off a full power energy blast. Maybe Geto can dodge. Maybe he can do that. But then he's still fighting Yuta and Rika. I think that current Yuta could beat Geto in 5 minutes. Notably, a lot of people think I'm a big Yuta slander, but I'm very confident in saying that Yuta could slam Geto in 5 minutes. All he needs to do is flicker on Curse Spirit Manipulation to eliminate any Curse Spirits that Geto's controlling, and then turn on Sky Manipulation, and boom, Geto's done. And that's obviously not including Domain, which would obviously mollywop Geto. Like, once again, Geto just suffers from super duper juper ooper gooper pre-series lack of scaling and lack of abilities. He is the most incomplete special grade when you really think about it. He has the deepest kit, he has the deepest bag imaginable at current, because, well, I'd say even in speculation, he has the deepest bag imaginable. Well, not technically, because Yuta technically does have the deepest bag imaginable. If we're giving him like if we slide him the wiki, he has the deepest bag imaginable. But Geto's a close runner-up. But unfortunately, that bag is way too vague. And Geto, I hate to say this, he doesn't use Curse Spirit Manipulation that well. In my opinion, Kenjaku doesn't use Curse Spirit Manipulation that well. I'd be going crazy with Curse Spirit Manipulation. Let me just say that. If I had their arsenal, trust me, I'd be going crazy. But unfortunately, Geto just doesn't have the technique that works against his fellow special grades. He doesn't have the raw stats or scaling to put him anywhere. His best scaling is relative to JJK0 Yuta. Every other special grade slams at Yuta. It's not even close. And unfortunately, he just lacks the raw amount of techniques to really get him anywhere in this very, very, like, close-knit competition. It's really, really rough for Geto. Unfortunately, it'd be like that when it'd be like that sometimes. His counterpart, Kenjaku, I'll mention where I think he goes on this list in a bit, since technically he is the replacement special grade, the 4 special grade. If you want to go with that title in the modern narrative, Kenjaku technically is a special grade. At the same time, Geto, what's Geto? Geto was a special grade for a very short period of time. Like, there were technically never a period of 4 special grades. It was 3 the max special grades we had at one time, at least licensed official ones, were 3. It was Yuta, in the modern day, it's Yuta, Yuki, and Gojo. And in the time of the Gojo's past arc, it was Gojo, Yuki, and Geto. But then Geto became a curse user, and then Yuta even being classified as a special grade happens for a very limited period of time, and once again, Geto's a curse user. So they're technically never 4 special grades, but, or at least not concurrently. So unfortunately, Geto, it'd be like that when it'd be like that sometimes. If you have any arguments for Geto, if you want to leave them, please do. I would love to see them. I feel like he's a character that kind of suffers a whole lot from just early series syndrome. If you have anything else to give him, please let me know. But let's not waste any more time, and let's hop right into number 3. Okay, now hear me out. Hear me out, Yuta fans. Hear me out. Hear me out. Okay. Now, we got a conversation about this, all right? I believe that Yuta, with 5 minutes, 5 things on him, can beat Geto. I think Yuta, with 5 minutes, mollywops a good 95% of the verse. It's just that top 5% that's a little bit, now hear me out. Base Yuta, which is what he commonly is. Base Yuta is the main thing that rocks up to fights. Let's be completely honest. Yuta never runs up, at least in the ways we've seen him. Against his 2 fights that we've seen in the narrative of current modern series Yuta, he never runs up at full power. He always runs up in base. And with that being the case, if base Yuta runs up on Geto, he gets beat up a little bit, realizes he can't beat Geto without his technique, slides the ring on, starts Oguriba in Geto's Cursed Spirit's face, and they all... Here's what happens if base Yuta... We'll slide on this. Base Yuta, he gets the katana out. He's like, I'm sorry, Miss Tsukumo, but I need to do this for my people. He draws the katana. He swings. Yuki punches straight through the katana. And then straight through Yuta's arms. And then Yuta looks on in horror as his arms literally get detached. Because, like, come on now. Here's the thing. I'm going to do a little bit of... This is definitely a little bit ambiguous, but I think it's not unreasonable. It's not unreasonable to say that Kenjaku and base Yuta have comparable amounts of curse energy. Why do I say that? Because we know Kenjaku, in his fight with Yuki and Choso, used reverse curse technique to heal his arms. He used reverse curse technique to fuel every single one of his utilizations of gravity, which I believe were like 6 or 7 throughout the entire encounter. He was spamming and specifically amping cursed spirits with his own cursed energy. He dropped an entire RCT domain, and we already know domains usually take you out for the day as is. And he also managed to reverse engineer a counter for a black hole, which likely took a lot of energy. And even still, after all that, he wasn't too worse for wear. Yuta? I mean, once again, don't get me wrong. I believe in Sendai, bro was a little bit tired. He was a little bit sleepy and fatigued. Sorry, I'm downplaying Yuta. But like, bro did like execute 6 people, 7 including Drew, up to the point where we need to catch up with him in Sendai. So it's likely that he was fatigued. But he didn't look any worse for wear. And he used RCT 1, and when Kurushi first hits him, 2, the second time Kurushi hits him, 3 to exercise Kurushi, 4 to heal off Uro's attack, and 5 to heal off Ryu's attacks. So 5 utilizations of RCT, and bro's cursed energy reserves were already running out. So Kenny, who had 6 way more complicated applications of RCT that weren't just healing, but actually fueling techniques, I'm going to say it's reasonable to assume they have comparable amounts of cursed energy. So you may be wondering, what does this matter, Pencil? Why are you telling me they have comparable amounts of cursed energy? So they should reasonably have comparable amounts of bulk. In fact, I would say that you could definitely argue Kenjaku is even bulkier. Remember, Yuta is very physically weak. Like, it's a thing that he knows. It's the reason why Itadori is able to go relative to him at all, even a tiny bit, and not get absolutely perception blitzed in one tap. It's because Yuji has such a strong base body and a decent amount of cursed energy, while Yuta has such a regularly, honestly frail. Remember, the boy was in the hospital for a majority of his youth. He has a relatively frail body that he bolsters with a bunch of cursed energy. So Kenjaku, who is possessing the body of a healthy, I say Geto's pretty healthy. How old is Geto? Let me get the Googler out. Geto Suguru. I believe Geto is a healthy 27-year-old man at the time of his possession by Kenjaku. So Kenjaku should have comparable cursed energy amounts to Yuta and a stronger physical base than what Yuta has access to, simply because he's a healthy, full-grown man, while Yuta is 16, 17? Let me check. I think I'm not going to put money on it, because I ain't got no money to put down. But, yeah, he's 17 years old. So Geto literally has a 10-year lead on him in terms of just physical development. Geto's much closer to the prime of his life than Yuta is. And Kenjaku should have comparable amounts of cursed energy. So the reason I bring all this up is because we know cursed energy reinforcement works based on how much cursed energy you have and how strong your physical base is. That's where you get the spicy sauce. So, what I'm saying is, if Yuki can reel back with her regular fist and straight through Kenjaku's arms, I think it's entirely reasonable that the same thing happens to Yuta. And I know. Here hey, as a Ryu Glazer myself, as one of the Ryu rockers myself, I do have to say, he does have the highest output in recorded history 400 years ago. And he also does have the highest output. He boasts the highest output of anybody in the Culling games, according to the narrator itself. Issue with that, though, an issue putting him above Yuki, it's the fact that A, she's not in the Culling games, and B, she didn't exist yet. And C, secret third thing, Kenjaku didn't even know her technique before he actually fought her. And that statement by Kenjaku about Ryu having the highest output was from 400 years ago. So super predated. But remember, Kenjaku pulled up to the fight blind. He really took a gamble. That's why I say the plot was really on Kenjaku's side when he went to fight Yuki. He took an omega gamble fighting Yuki. And hey, I hate to say it, but if Kenjaku, Mr. I literally wrote the series, like KK self-insert in disguise, didn't know Yuki's technique, there's no way Yuta knows it. There's just no way. So I genuinely believe, like, maybe, once again, maybe he does. I wouldn't be shocked if it actually gets revealed that he did learn Bombae from Yuki before Yuki got donuted. But, like, if that's revealed to be the case, then we'll take this all back and talk about it another time. But specifically right now, with what's confirmed about Yuta, I think he does ultimately get one-tapped by Yuki. And the thing is, Yuki is a very, like, how do I put this in a way that doesn't reference fighters? Oh, but it's too perfect a reference, though. Yuki's very much like Android 18 in Dragon Ball Fighters. Like, her neutral kind of sucks. Like, legitimately, Yuki better hope and pray she can hit you. Like, she can just run at you and hit you, and or send Garuda to hit you. Because other than that, she's kind of got nothing in terms of general range, and especially in comparison to her fellow special grades. But the thing is, if she lands that opening hit, which she's very likely to do against Yuta, because, once again, Yuta is a guy who relies on his bulk and relies on a sword, you know, a relatively close range weapon. If he runs in and gets hit, then that's it. Just like when you get knocked into the corner by Android 18, I dabble a little bit in 18. I dabble a little bit of Fighters 18 myself, and I can 100% tell you, if I've got you in the corner and I have a bar, which most likely I do, come on, I got you to the corner somehow, then I'm going quarter circle back, circle, quarter circle back, circle, and then you're stuck in a flash screen. AKA, I have the momentum and I'm going to mix you until oblivion. And that is the same thing that's going to happen with Yuki. By the time that Yuta heals his arms back into place and tries to scramble to put Rika on his finger, Yuki's already hit him again. And again. And like, she's literally just going to pulverize you, unfortunately. And here's the thing, right? You may say, well, that's unfair. You gave Yuta the chance to slide the ring on against Geto, so why not full power Yuta versus Yuki? The same thing still applies, because you gotta remember, full power Yuta doesn't actually have like much of a stat difference from base Yuta. At least not one that's clarified, explained, or mentioned. The only stat boost he quote unquote gets is an infinite curse energy meter, because he's directly linked up with Rika, who has boundless curse energy, and his technique. He doesn't actually get any physically stronger, faster, or bulkier. This is even shown when he fights Ryu again and fights Uro again, and they're still able to do damage to him just fine in the same ways that they did damage to base Yuta. It's just that Rika's there. And Rika's very annoying. But here's the thing. This is going to sound a teeny tiny bit black. I think Rika, not one-tapped, but I think if Yuki can react to Rika, which for all intents and purposes she should be able to, it's hard to believe that Rika got stronger. Yuta got stronger over the year, but I don't think Rika got stronger. If anything, Rika literally got weaker. Except maybe, hold on, let me double check something. I think maybe it said that Rika got stronger in the middle of the Sendai fight. Let me see. I'm just going to double check that. But I think you could definitely argue with the loss of the soul of Rika Orimoto, Rika definitively got weaker. She is legit just the remaining husk. I swear, I reference back to the Sendai fight so often, I might as well have it bookmarked. But with that being the case, I don't think Rika got any stronger or faster. And if Geto is able to keep pace and block and deal with fully manifested Rika using Playful Cloud, I think Yuki imbuing Garuda with Bombaye is more than capable of blocking, redirecting, and smacking out both of them. Like, legitimately. Unfortunately, there just isn't much of a speed gap or comparison that's really available there. And all of Yuta's techniques are, once again, reliant on the fact that they work normally, like regular concepts still apply. But remember, Kenjaku tried to deal with Yuki with a super crazy concept manipulating cursed spirit, and she looked it dead in the face and she one-tapped it. So things like sky manipulation and things like Drew Shikigami technique and even cursed speech flat out may not work. Like, the only thing that actually worked on Yuki was brute force. Like, straight up, Kenjaku had to blast her face and then her insides with massive, super crazy cursed energy blast, and also spam her with gravity. Like, I don't think Yuta has anything like that in his kit. Hold on, let me see. However, the last remnants of Rika Orimoto's will inside Yuta could not accept that. Rika's gear ratchet up a notch at that moment. So yeah. So it doesn't, once again, it doesn't really imply, I think maybe in the original translation that came out, I think I'm reading the Viz translation, I think in the original translation that came out, it was implied that Rika got like stronger, or at least comparable to her JJK0 state. The eye opening is typically the JJK0 state. But I don't think she's any more powerful than she was last year. At best, being generous to Rika, she's equal to her previous incarnation in JJK Zero. But it's very likely she actually got weaker. So if Geto is able to go relative with that, and Yuki is able to go relative in combat while extremely damaged, by the way, with Kenjaku, who is definitively stronger and faster than Geto, and Yuta is with Rika, who should be strong enough to damage Yuki, don't get me wrong. I think since Rika should be at best comparable to where she was last year in the previous series in JJK Zero, I think Yuki has enough speed to just boom, like straight bam, and then Rika's arm is gone. And then her head, and then her little tail too, and that's it. And then Yuta just gets one shot again. Once again, I think Yuta just suffers because he's very hard countered by Yuki. Whew, sorry, I'm getting a little dehydrated. But essentially, what I'm talking about is the idea that Yuki's just a straight hard counter. Even with Rika, a boundless manifestation of cursed energy, Yuta's just not bulky enough. He's not eating a hit that's tearing through Kenjaku. He's just not eating that. And even Rika's likely not eating that. If Rika can be damaged and knocked around and even burned by Ryu's regular blasts and attacks, what do you think something imbued with imaginary mass is going to do to Rika? It's going to piece her up. Turn her into a 3-piece called, ironically enough, called KFC. Did KFC tweet about the recent episode? But regardless, yeah, I just think Yuki's like the worst matchup for Yuta. Especially considering her ability through mass manipulation negates a lot of the stuff that Yuta does. If everything Yuta does falls beneath concept manipulation, and Yuki's mass ability, Bombaye has already shown the ability to absolutely neutralize mass manipulation. No, not mass manipulation. It's beaten concept manipulation. Everything else that Yuta has is beneath that. Jutsu Kigami technique, worthless. Literally all getting one tapped. Cursed speech, once again, it may catch Yuki off guard once. Maybe. Big maybe. But even then, it's not concept stuff. She may just neg it. Like, she may swing at air. I know this sounds so stupid, but she may legit swing at air and negate the cursed speech. So I'll admit, cursed speech may be one thing. But here's the thing, though. If Yuta and Rika double teaming Uro after catching her once with cursed speech was not able to do anything, or no, not that's an understatement. They were able to do something. They were able to do a bunch of decent damage to Uro, but if Rika gets the ability, or no, if Yuki gets 5 seconds to breathe, which shouldn't be too bad if she gets knocked away, she heals up and she one-taps him. Once again, and then she's never falling for her speech again. She's going to reinforce the mirrors. And even then, Yuki should know about Yuta. Yuki should definitely know about Yuta, considering how knowledgeable she is as a character. We sleep on Yuki and her sheer just game knowledge. She knows way too much about the verse. She literally wrote a whole book on souls. So she probably knows that Yuta has cursed speech. And thusly, if she does, then Yuta's done something, because then he has no income. He just has no incons. Even, once again, even Earl's sky manipulation. Yuta goes to drag the space away. Yuki, with her imaginary mask, really breaks the shattered. Or it would literally become a thin icebreaker. She would shatter the space and just mollywop Yuta through it. And that sounds crazy, but I think that's literally how it would work, because of how her mask comes with concept negation, technique negation, and stuff like that. It's just too much. And you can't even, unlike with Geto, where even if you want to argue, oh, well, maybe he can spam Yuta with all that stuff, Yuki has a domain. Maybe it doesn't have the same amount of cursed energy as Yuta can put into his, but it should have even better refinement. Yuta's domain is likely less than a year old. Think about that. It's less than a year old in series, most likely. And Yuki's been a special grade for over a decade. So she's had nothing but time to refine that bad boy. So at best, they both neutralize in domain and get a 120% stat buff. And then Yuki slams him even harder, like legitimately. So ultimately, I think Yuta right now just doesn't have enough. I could easily see it. If Yuta gets, there are 3 things he needs to beat Yuki that I think he can get ready access to, based on things he's seen and data that's been confirmed to exist. I think he's going to need projection sorcery in order to get that speed lead. He's going to need, enough, Bombay, or preferably reuse Granite Blast or something like that to get that extra bit of raw firepower behind him so he could actually do something to Yuki to beat her up. And also, he's probably... You could argue he could beat her with those two, but he would definitely like Angel's technique. He would definitely like that. That would be nice. That would be very, very nice if you could cop that. Or Idle Transfiguration. Those are two that he should reasonably have access to. I'll make a whole speculation video about Yuta. Right now, I'm trying to just go with a pure facts, a Dax thing. And one last thing to tackle before I move on to number 2. If you don't know what number 2 is. But like, last thing I want to tackle. The second only to Satoru Gojo statement. In Viz, and once again, that is the official translation. I know they aren't the best, but that's the official translation. And it's the translation I've seen backed up by multiple other creators on multiple different platforms. It is unusual abilities. And that is true. Yuta is second to Gojo in unusual abilities. He's the only other special grade, once again, official special grade. There are only 3 in Gojo, Yuki, and himself. He's the only one with multiple unusual abilities, which is Mimicry, plus Rika, plus Drew Sky Manipulation, plus, not Drew Sky Manipulation, Drew Shikigami Technique, and Real Sky Manipulation. He does have unusual abilities that are beyond what Yuki has. Yuki just has Bombay and Garuda. That's just less than what Yuta has. So second in unusual abilities does not mean second in raw power or strength or who would win in a fight. I'm just going with that. If you don't like that, I mean, that's fine. I can't tell you to not like things. But that's how I see it, and that's why I put Yuta at number 3. Let's not waste any more time, and let's hop right into number 2. So, I mean, it's obvious who number 2 is at this point. Like, notably, I haven't even mentioned number 1 so far. You can go back. I think I literally have not mentioned them yet. But let's talk about number 2, Yuki Tsukumo. Now, I did say she has the worst technique. And unfortunately, that's not changing anytime soon. Like, legitimately, nothing is going to change my opinion on that. I think her technique is verbatim the worst. The versatility provided by the rest of the techniques is crazy. But Yuki's still just really, really cracked. Where Geto suffers from super duper early game syndrome, where he was introduced too early into the meta. He's like, I always bring it back to fighters, but he's kind of like, I'd say Bardock now because Bardock got power creep, but Bardock's technically DLC. Who's an original character from Dragon Ball Fighters that kind of just got power crept or power? I mean, they buffed a lot of characters. Well, let's just say this: Geto's like Super Saiyan Goku. Is he manageable? Yeah. Is he good? So yeah, you can work with him. You can put him on a team and he'll still function. But like, if you had to pick between Super Saiyan Goku and like Lab Coat 21, SS4 Gogeta, SSG, SS Vegeta, like, there's just levels to it. And Yuki benefits, like Gogeta, both the Gogetas and Vegeta benefits from a super late addition to the game. Super late addition to the meta. She is literally the special grade we get the most recent showings of, outside of Gojo, very recently in the battle with Sukuna. And thusly, she gets a lot of perks that Geto just didn't have access to, which some of those perks include confirmed RCT. That's fate. That's grand. That's great. That's fantastic. Try to say both at the same time. She has confirmed RCT. We know she has a domain. She has simple domain. So she has a domain counter. So she doesn't even really have to fight Yuta directly. Like if Yuta opens domain on her, she can just simple domain. She has a really, really solid technique. And worst comes to worst, she drops a black hole on people. Like, legitimately. I didn't mention it when I was talking about Geto or Yuta, but neither of them are beating a black hole. Sure, it's a double KO, and I don't think she has to go that far. But black hole, GG. Any arguments against that? Who on this list, except for one person, except for one individual, who on this list is beating a black hole? Heck, you may even be able to argue number 1 can't beat a black hole. If she just lets it while out, then maybe number 1 can't even beat that because it destroys the planet. So it's going to be a double KO. But in terms of just raw power, Yuki drastically clears the other two. Yuta's output is confirmed to just be kind of averaged by Ryu. It's like, he's like, it's alright, he's neat. He can do curse energy blast, but output's kind of, it's alright, it's light enough. And then you have Yuki over here, who's blowing through Kenjaku, the thickest man in the series. Can I say that? Yeah, I can say that. The thickest man in the series, not the thickest man. Gojo and Satoru are likely much more bulky. But like, one of the thickest men in the series, in terms of just raw bulk, casually blowing through him. Literally, once again, I say it every single time. I'm going to make that Yuki video. Well, actually, I may record that Yuki video like later this week. But I 100% believe Kenjaku was straight up saved by plot. The fact that both his arms got blown through, but his jaw was still attached after getting hit by Yuki, crazy. He literally got knocked out of a barrier. That kind of AP is not shown by either Geto or Yuta anywhere, even with their strongest attacks, even with Uzumaki and stuff like that. None of that. That's not popping off. I'm sorry, it just ain't. And that's the kind of force she's swinging with. In terms of speed, once again, relativity to Kenjaku, while super duper juper insanely fatigued, like legitimately just got out of a sure hit barrierless domain and still is able to like dance a little bit with Kenjaku. And obviously she shows relativity to him simply for the fact that when they first started fighting, Kenjaku was like, oh yeah, I ain't fighting you no more. So he literally admits like it would just be a difficult fight. He doesn't think he could perception blitz or speed blitz or anything like that. So he ends up fighting her super indirectly by using domain. So relativity to Kenjaku is better than relativity to Geto, which Geto has because Geto is Geto. Because Kenjaku is literally just better Geto. So she's fast enough, she's faster than him and counters all of Geto's curse techniques. All the curse spirits get one-tapped and all their special abilities get ignored because she can ignore concepts. Crazy enough. Yuta, once again, I understand that being the hard one. There is that statement. Yuta is only second to Satoru Gojo in unusual abilities. Yeah, in unusual abilities. Once again, I'm going to hammer that home. Unusual abilities. That's it. Doesn't say second in raw stats, raw speed, raw power. None of that. In fact, there are other statements that directly contradict that statement. You could definitely argue it's one of the later statements, so maybe it overrides previous statements, but like, Naobito and Naoya are likely faster than Yuta. They're projection sorcerers, and Naobito is stated to be the second fastest sorcerer. Yuta's a sorcerer. If it really was overall stats, then Yuta should be the second fastest sorcerer, but he isn't. So unfortunately, Yuta, with his average output statements, his lack of direct, like, crazy output feats on Dura Beasts that don't involve like straight Duranag like he did to Ryu and or Rika. Even Rika with her hits, I don't see her with a regular punch blowing off both of Kenjaku's arms. She couldn't even do that to Geto when she was at literally her peak in JJK0. Everything, Rika's literally just been on a downslope since JJK0 in terms of her power, since the soul left. The main juice that was juicing up the vessel is gone. So obviously she's not going to be as powerful. And that just leaves Yuta, who also isn't output-wise that powerful. And while his speed is pretty hard to correlate to Kenjaku, presumably, if I had to take a solid guess, Kenjaku is likely at bare minimum relative to Yuta in speed. Bare minimum. You could definitely argue that Kenjaku just should be faster, because he should be faster than Geto. And if Rika's on a downslope and Rika and Yuta are still somewhat relative in speed, considering how they both interact with Ryu, then you could definitely make the argument that Kenjaku's just even faster, and Yuki, by being relative to him and having the ability to one-shot Yuta, would just beat him through being faster and one-tapping him. So overall, yeah, Yuki's number 2. It's just not even really a debate or a contest, at least not in my opinion, until Yuta gets more in his kit that can directly combat someone like Yuki. I'm talking techniques that can shut her down, or techniques that can bolster his AP enough to do serious solid damage to her, and better speed scaling. Once he gets amps or an awakening or something like that, then it can finally slide that extra bit of sauce onto Mr. Blessed himself. But right now, unfortunately, I cannot give him all that extra slop, because right now he's too speculative. Give him some time. Let him cook. Let him actually fight Kenjaku. Let him get some more scaling, and then we can talk, Yuta fans. But right now, Yuki is number 2. It makes sense. She is literally the longest lived special grade that we know of in the entire series. And while she did get done dirty and lost her first fight, okay, we still know she is definitely her. So let's not waste any more time. Let's hop right into number 1. Y'all, like, Like, what are we still doing here? What are we still doing here, y'all? I wonder, who could number one be? Could it be the character who I'm so confident is the number one special grade? I haven't even bothered to mention him this entire video. Is it the character who on numerous occasions, both inside and outside the narrative, has been referred to as the strongest sorcerer? Either A, of the modern era in the narrative, or B, just flat out called the strongest character in the manga by the writer himself? Oh, I don't know. Is it the only character capable of fighting the King of Curses head on to the point where Kenjaku believes the rest of the cast, including a character that people would argue is the second strongest sorcerer, needs to jump with two other special grade level threats in order to take down a fatigued King of Curses? Like, is it maybe, just possible, that Gojo Satoru is the strongest? Maybe. Let me scratch my head with this one. Let me think. Oh, this is a rough choice. This is the hardest placement on the. Yes, obviously Gojo is number one. I mean, like, do I really need to go into it? He speed blitzes and one taps all of them. Like, is this? Like, for reference, this is still a weird line of scaling, but it happened. It happened within like 6 chapters of each other too. So this is like close. Maki should be faster than Yuta by a long shot, by being able to somewhat deal with and be faster than the projection sorcerers, who are stated, or at least Nobito at least, is stated to be the second fastest sorcerer. Maki, with her precog and all that good juice, is able to react to an even faster Curse Noia, moving at that juicy, bubblicious Mach 3. This same Maki, with the same precog, gets run up on by Uroume. This same Maki, with precog, who just showed relativity to 15-finger Sukuna, by the way, a character that perception blitzed Ryu, who was going relative to Yuta in speed. This same Maki looks Uroume dead in the face as Uroume prepares their maximum attack, likely knows the attack is coming, and still gets tagged by it. And then Uroume proceeds to get speed blitzed and one tap by Gojo. He does that to literally every other special grade. Shahor, Hollow Purple, all of them are done. Infinite Void, all of them are done. What else? Red, blue, like he probably doesn't. This is gonna sound crazy. This is gonna sound crazy to some of the fans out there of all these characters. I think Brain Damage Gojo, no Unlimited Void, at least the rest of the special grades, all at the same time. You could literally throw all the special grades at Gojo at the same time, and he would still all mollywop every last one of them with ease. His scaling is so much higher than theirs. It's literally not in the same tier. Kenjaku, who is the hypothetical number 2, like if you were to swap Geto out for Kenjaku in this case, Kenjaku would be the second strongest character on this list by a long shot, because he literally beat Yuki while he was getting jumped. He was getting jumped by the best barrier user in the world, one of the 4 special grades, and a high grade 1 special grade curse. Bro was getting giga jumped, and he's still clutched up. So Kenjaku would definitely be number 2, and Kenjaku was literally Yuki-ing all over himself when Gojo simply breathed in his general direction. Like legitimately, what do you want the special grades to do? They all get molly. I may have to make that verse about. I may have to make Gojo versus the rest of the special grade. I may have to make Gojo versus the verse minus Sukuna, just to explain how powerful Gojo is. Because Gojo's just him. It's just him on a different level. Once again, multiple statements inside and outside the narrative. He's the strongest. We literally had the whole plot put on hold and had the whole culling games because of him. The whole plot of the first half of the series was just to put that man in a box. Like, Gojo's the strongest. Literally none of them have win cons. I legit think he could beat Brain Damage Gojo could beat them all if Yuta and Yuki open domain. Even still, he would just simple domain and then bully them. If they could even open domain against them, it's very likely he just speed blitzes them. Brain Damage Gojo likely speed blitz and knocks them out before they could even open domain. He's not him. However, That's what I think. Please put what you guys think in the comment section down below. You think my list is whack? You think my list is dumb? You think I have bad reasoning? Please tell me all that and more in the comment section down below. Thank you guys so much for watching. Parents, like, share, comment, and subscribe. And make sure that the notifications most so you do not miss out on any videos that come to the channel. Also, I do have a Patreon down below where you can support me for as little as $1 a month. You get things like exclusive videos, early content, and more. You also now become a member of the channel for as little as $3 a month to get the same perks and more. Now, thank you guys so much for watching once again, and I hope you guys have a wonderful day. This is that guy with, oh no, please, 2 pencils riding off. I'd like to give a very big thank you to our $3 members, Recliner Plays and Red Wolf 4765. I'd like to give another very big thank you to our $5 patrons, Alex Ice Rose, Art Goon, DemXLND, Midnight Gemlord, Red Wolf 4765, and Sean. I'd like to give another very big thank you to our $10 patrons, Demokami, Joaquin, and Robbie Uchiha. I'd like to give another gargantuan thank you to our $25 member, Alex Ice Rose.